Blog Talk Radio.
Original game, let's go. It's time to attack. We the smartest, fastest, and most vicious. We gonna put them in their place. We coming around for one day.
And he's gonna fire deep. But there, inside the 10. Throws Superman. Put route by Edelman. Now they come on a reverse to the near side on a quick run.
What's up, NFL fans out there, and welcome to another edition of Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Dev McMillan, and I'm at the round table with my partner. We got Fred Purdue in the building. Fred, what's going on, good bro?
What's going on, man? After a very, very interesting, very full Thanksgiving. Great football, great food. I'm ready to attack this next little bit down the stretch of the year.
Yes, sir. I mean, things actually worked out, as far as my rooting interests go. Things pretty much worked out for me on Thanksgiving. I mean, when the Cowboys and Washington get together, you kind of want a tie, or if it was possible, you want both of them to lose. But the best case scenario, if somebody has to win, it was great for the Cowboys to be the ones to become victorious. That brings everything in the division a little bit closer. The Eagles went out and did their thing barely against the Giants, had to do it late on Sunday. So that leaves one game out of a three-way tie in the NFC East, and that is if the Cowboys go ahead and get destroyed by the Saints like everybody expects them to this week. If they don't, I'll probably slip my wrist so you won't have a partner next week. And the Eagles will have to go out and, get a game against Washington. That'll leave everybody even in the division. And, for now, that'll leave me a very happy camper, even though, you're staring down the barrel of the Rams at some point in the next few weeks. But, yeah, we're going to talk about that because our main topic for this particular show is the weaknesses of each division leader. But before we get into that, we're going to take you guys on a quick slants. We're going to take you on some routes, some quick slants real quick. Little things going on around the NFL before we get into, what we think of the weaknesses of each division leader. So the first quick slant, Reuben Foster was released by the San Francisco 49ers because he's, again, been accused of domestic violence towards his girlfriend. They released him the next day after the story came out. Washington claimed his rights off of waivers, and they've been getting a lot of backlash for it ever since. Quick thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, for me, when I look at this, it's one of those things of Washington. What are you doing? Come on, man. This is a come on, man moment. But then for Reuben Foster, it's like he's one of those guys that really just makes me want to just pull my hair out because you haven't made. You're thought of as one of an ascending player who has elite talent, and yet you squander it because you can't keep your hands to yourself. And for me, they told him stay away from certain women. This time it was for another young lady who he just couldn't stay away from. So now you're violating not only what the 49ers want, but so now you're making your situation worse. Even if it had been no domestic violence, that's what you would have been dealing with. And on Washington's side, how do you justify this? I mean, we literally have the evidence. We have receipts that this guy is putting his hands on women, and this time there's no, he didn't really do it. I was just mad at him. There's none of that. There's just simply him putting.
I mean, and that even looked suspect last time. It kind of looked like, all right, somebody got to her. You know what I mean? And she recanted her story.
A nice check.
A lot of because I'm here in the Washington area, so it was allegedly everybody had a hand in the decision, from coach to GM to president to owner. They claim, they're kind of kicking the tires while they do some extra investigating. He may not ever suit up in a Washington uniform, but they're kicking the tires investigating just to see. Washington at this point is like Alabama East. They have at least 6 or 7 players on their roster, contributors that are from Alabama. Supposedly they ran some things by some of those guys, but what do you expect those guys? Some of them played with them in college. Others just, they're from the same alma mater. Like, what do you expect them to say? They're not going to throw them under the bus. Of course, they're going to say, "Oh no, we know Ruben. He's a good dude, man. You guys should give him a chance." They're doing what homies are supposed to do. So if that's the word that
what are you supposed to say, Josh?
Right.
Yeah. What do you? Let's go ahead and name drop. I'm just going to be, because that's what we do here. Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, who came in back-to-back years, who played with Reuben Foster on those national championship teams. What do you, like you said, what do you want me to say when my own football team, my college football team, Alabama's football team treats their brotherhood like a fraternity. They literally call it Bama Psi Phi. Do you really think they are going to snitch on each other? Come on. It's not going to happen.
Like, in school, he used to beat his chick up a little bit, but, it's nothing serious. Bring him on. I really don't understand what they expect him to say. So we'll see how it goes. He might not ever play. It sounds like he might be pretty much done for this season. But you know how it is in the NFL, man. It's like it's talent over character, and most times if that character isn't offensive to anything you believe in, because these days hitting a woman is much worse. Kneeling for a national anthem is much worse than hitting a woman. The NFL statistics show that at least 49% of their fans are women. And the funny thing is, they don't seem to value these women at all, because had the video not come out and been public, Ray Rice would have gotten a slap on the wrist, even though the NFL knew how bad that situation was. But they would have swept it right under the rug had the video not come out. So, this is just more proof that the NFL, they devalue certain situations. As long as you're talented enough, we're good. But, this is our America, not your America. So if you kneel for the flag for our America, then we're going to blackball you out of the league, because that's way worse than hitting a woman or getting arrested 65 times and all that kind of stuff. So you know how it is, man. It's the NFL. That's what they're going to do. DeMarcus Lawrence, we spoke, in the intro a little bit about the Cowboys and their big game this week versus it's a Thursday nighter versus the hot New Orleans Saints. Cowboys is also a hot team right now, not as hot as the Saints and not doing it in the same ways that the Saints are doing it, but defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence, he kind of called the Saints offense out a little bit, saying that, they were going to punch him in the mouth and they had to deal with him and his defense. It's one of those situations, though, Fred, he was asked a question. A lot of people don't really like honesty until somebody, a lot of people criticize everyone else for not liking honesty, and everyone asks for honesty, but then have a problem with honesty when they get it. I don't know if this is just honesty or bravado, but what do you expect him to do, or at least what do you expect him to say? If I'm him, my plan would be to punch the dude across the field from me in the mouth. That doesn't mean you're not going to get beat by 30, but my plan would be to punch him in the mouth. But do you think his words is going to be any kind of bulletin board material for the Saints? Did he make it worse?
I think he did. Everyone knows football is one of those sports where you have guys that just talk a lot of junk, and you hear it in the locker rooms. You may talk amongst each other outside of the locker room. That's great. If you didn't, I'd wonder where your mind is and what kind of where's your manhood. But to the media, you don't say those things because there's this thing called bulletin board material. I remember one Ray Lewis used to love bulletin board material. And my guy, my quarterback, Tom Brady, he loves bulletin board material. And when you get teams riled up. Drew Brees, he may be the quiet assassin, but he's going to rip you to pieces now. You have you've literally just called out his manhood and said, we're going to hit you in the mouth, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Let me read his quote.
The hottest team in the league.
He said they're going to have to match our intensity. He's like, shit, for 60 minutes straight, if you hit a MFer in the mouth and then they ain't doing what they're regularly doing, putting up 50 points, they start to get a little distressed. Now you got them where you want them at, and then you effing choke their ass out. So we'll see. I mean, it sounds good. And sometimes, like I said, when you're asked certain things, then you answer honestly. I can't fault you for that. But, it's going to be funny to me if it's a reverse, if the Saints go out and choke them out. And then somebody after the game says, yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence's comments gave us a little bit of extra motivation. Then, that will be hilarious to me. But I'm not too mad at him. I mean, he's a grown man. Those dudes tie their shoes the same way he does, put their pants on one leg at a time. So, yeah, I like the fact that he's not speaking as if he's scared. Sometimes the best thing is to keep things to yourself. But, hey, if somebody's going to ask you your opinion, tell them what you got on your mind, DeMarcus. The results be damned, but tell them what you got on your mind.
The one thing I take away from this is I love the energy. I love it, but I need you to have that same energy when Drew Brees drops like 40 on you, and there's nothing you can do because, your offense is – if Amari Cooper goes down, boy, oh boy, your defense Cowboys defense isn't terrible, but you need an offense to go with it. And can you really score? We saw what you can do. I've seen this story already. Jalen Ramsey did this earlier in the year with Tom Brady and company, and yeah, you beat the Patriots, but then you can't, if you can't back it up, that's when your season starts going down because now every team knows you're a little bit on the soft side.
Speaking of Jalen Ramsey and doing that, it was not only Tom Brady that he had words about. Jalen Ramsey made it a point prior to the season in a GQ interview to throw a little barb at each and every quarterback in the NFL. I guess this is when you thought our team was going to continue the dominance that we had displayed last year and fell just short of a Super Bowl appearance. We talked about it back then, Fred. We were like, man, this could go the other way, and it could be ugly. Now you got Bortles being benched, Fournette being suspended for a very silly fight right next to the fans on the sideline, and you got Jalen Ramsey doubtful for this week's game after, having several weeks of displaying what looked to be tears on the sideline because of his frustration at how things have fallen apart in Jacksonville. Man, is this collapse real? Like, is this maybe, they didn't get it done last year, but some teams that aren't used to success could have a little bit of a hangover. Then maybe late in the season or the next season they can get themselves back on track. Do you see that for this team, or do you think that was a one-year wonder and now it's just falling apart and the Jags may be who we thought they were? What's your thoughts on the collapse of the Jags?
Blake Bortles is still trash. Leonard Fournette, still trash. I still say it, and I said it when he was in college. I'll still say it now. He's still trash. Hasn't done anything against a real team yet. And by the way, this team, you assembled a great defense. But the thing about having a really great defense, you got to have an offense that can at least, especially in today's NFL, where you can't rough guys up, you got to be able to make whole teams to anywhere between 14 to 17 points. And on the back end of that, you got to be able to score 18 to 24 points. I don't see the Jaguars scoring that many points on their best day on a regular basis. It starts at the top. And quite honestly, the mistake they made was re-signing Blake Bortles. I mean, we've already seen this story already, and he's not. Here's the thing: with a young quarterback, after about 4 years of the same thing, you're not getting any better. You are who you are. You're a game manager. You need a lot of weapons.
Right.
They didn't go out and get him any else.
That's what he is. I don't think he's just ultimately terrible. He has his terrible moments, but I think he gets a lot of the undue blame for what everybody on this team is doing. Comes with the position. We know how that is. The only difference in that is Bortles didn't get any of the credit when they were doing well. Like, Bortles can have a great game, and nobody's going to give him the credit. So it was kind of imbalanced in that way. Fournette, this last game when he got suspended before, swinging on people that had helmets on, never understood why they did that. He was being very productive in this game. 2 touchdowns. He was being very productive before he lost his ever-loving mind. I just don't think the Jags had it this year. Last year, it could be a flash in the pan. I'm not going to count them all the way out because you can have a down year. You know what I'm saying? Even in your ascent to being one of the league's better teams, you can have a down year. I've never been one to make the judgments that quickly because you never know what's going to happen late in the season or next year. But I can tell you one thing. This one is just about wrapping up on them. If they lose this game this week, they can basically kiss this season goodbye because there'll be too many teams in that particular division who has a leg up on them because of games that the Jags probably should have won. But yeah,
I'm gonna
collapse.
I'm gonna just go ahead and put a fork in them. They're 3-8. There's no way they're coming back from what the hole that they've dug themselves. And by the way,
Right.
Cody Kessler is going to be the starter now, and you got to beat a pretty good Andrew Luck-led Colts team. A Tennessee Titans team is not all that great, but they're not going to lose to you. You get the Houston Texans, who are one of the hottest teams in the league, and the Dolphins aren't terrible. I mean, they still have, they have the Osweiler, but they're still not terrible.
You're right. And I look at the wild card situation; they don't have a shot sitting at 3-8. So.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, stick that fork in them. Definitely stick.
They haven't won a game.
They could get on a roll to show you maybe, the way they played most of this season wasn't them. Maybe they can get on one of those late season rolls, but it's not going to put them in a position where they can go into the postseason and surprise anybody. So yeah, that's it. So while we're talking about records and division leaders, let's go around the NFL real quick. Let's go deep and talk about some of the weaknesses we see in each division leader. And we'll start in the AFC with your New England Patriots, who sit at 8-3 themselves. Were there any weaknesses, if any, that you see in this Patriots team?
Offensive line is this. It seems like Brady's. He's putting up meager numbers, but he's getting hit more than I really like seeing him get hit. As far as, and this is more so in the passing game. The running game has been fine. This team can run block all day long, but protecting Brady is number one priority for this team. And with a young left tackle in Trent Brown, who isn't terrible, but he's just so young. He's still learning the game. They have to the interior has to step up for this team to go far and help those tackles out a little bit.
Weakness for me with the Patriots, everything you said is legitimate, but for me, it's something that I kind of see in the Patriots every year. And I just think for most of these guys, it's regular season complacency. You know what I'm saying? Like, you play in a division that for the past decade or so, it always shakes out one particular way. You're used to it shaking out that way. They already have a 3-game lead in this division right now. The same problems, most of the problems that we see from the Patriots during the regular season that a lot of us want to hit the panic button about, once they get to the postseason, you rarely see these same mistakes. So I chalk it up to complacency. Not that the defense played lights out in the playoffs last season, because we did speak on their defense during the regular season last year, but the team overall just does enough in the playoffs to where, their weaknesses sometimes don't even matter. And it really almost got to that point, even in the Super Bowl, where they gave up 41 points and still had an opportunity to win the game at the end. before the Eagles scored their last points of the game, the Patriots looked like they took over control of the game, if not for the strip sack by Brandon Graham. So as much as we complain about what the weaknesses of the Patriots might be every year, they always mask it once the playoffs come and get to where they need to get. Let's go to the AFC North. The Pittsburgh Steelers sit atop that division at 7-3-1. What are some of the weaknesses you see in this Pittsburgh Steeler team besides their apparent need to go for the home run like every goddamn play?
Well, it has a little bit to do about that. The turnovers. Ben just turns the ball over way too much for me. Instead of the safe, where we kind of these two teams are going to be on a collision course at some point probably, but the Patriots are more of the dink and dunk type of team. They're going to beat you. They're kind of like they're the death by 1,000 cuts, whereas the Steelers are they're just trying to blow you up every single time. They're trying to hit you with the atomic bomb or whatever. It's just that's for them. Ben turns the ball over at an alarming rate, and the thing is, in the regular season, you can get away with that. But say you turn the ball over 2 times in the playoffs, and you're playing New England, you're playing even Kansas City, who can score like crazy. You're not coming back from that. There's no way. Ben has to cut down on the turnovers. There is no running game. I mean, James Conner is good, but he's not Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon, he's gone now. So you got to rely on Ben to make plays for you.
Yeah, same here. Like I said, the fact that their offense is home run based, the turnovers will hurt them, and I think they're the opposite of what I said the Patriots are, because we see in many regular seasons, we see the Pittsburgh Steelers overcome their mistakes in the regular season. But once they get to the playoffs and they play better teams, then they kind of get exposed and they don't end up, where they think they should have been, at the beginning of the season. All right, so let's go to the AFC South, where the Houston Texans sit atop that division at 8-3. What weaknesses do you see here?
Again, offensive line, and I think this is going to be maybe a trend throughout this whole thing. The Texans, they have weapons galore. This team's actually pretty scary right now. And Deshaun Watson looks like he's getting better and better, more mobile every week, and it looks like that the knee injuries, he's coming back from that, and he has all around him, so that's going to make his life easier. But if right now you're not playing top-tier teams every single week versus when you get to the playoffs, you're going to play a lot of good defenses that have pass rushers. If you can't show up that offensive line and even block a little bit better up front, you're going to be in trouble.
All right. Nothing for me to add there, so let's move on to the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs, who sit atop that division at 9-2. Crazily, though, the Chargers are right behind them at 8-3. Kansas City Chiefs, this is an easy one. Defense, and defense. Even though this team scores at a frantic pace, they give up points and they give up yardage at a frantic pace as well, but mainly yardage. Overall defense, they rank 30th in the NFL. As far as scoring goes, I believe they give up about 30.3 points per game, as well as what they're putting on teams. So they can outscore you, they can beat you. Mahomes can go for 6 touchdowns on you, but they're going to give you some points as well. So if you can get into a situation in the playoffs, as a Eagles fan, I know from Andy's tenure there, even though he had a lot of success in the playoffs, when it really, really matters, Andy Reid isn't the best adjuster in the league. So if somebody can get into this postseason and maybe take away some of what Andy likes to do best on offense and can get some stops Kansas City's defense hasn't proven that they could stop anybody on the other end. So they'd be in trouble if they got into a situation where their offense couldn't do for a whole game what they're used to doing. So what do you see with Kansas City?
I'm going to piggyback off of what you said, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper. It's the back end of that defense. Pass rushers are fine,
right.
But it's that secondary. I mean, they're the bomb squad. They're allowing just tons and tons of yardage, and it's not just the Rams that did it. The Patriots did it to them. Various teams are doing it on this team, and if you're not able to get home with the pass rush, that secondary is going to have to cover for 6-7 seconds. You're in trouble, and it's not going to get any easier because once you make it to the playoffs, let's just say the playoffs started today, you're going to have to see New England, Houston, Pittsburgh, LA, the Chargers, or the Baltimore Ravens. Those are the teams you're contending against. Outside of the Ravens, every one of these teams can score points. They can score with you drive for drive, and they can all do it in different ways. You can't put it all on a young quarterback to win games for you. You have to shore up the back end, especially knowing that this kid has and going forward, you're going to have to do this, knowing that you have him on a rookie contract and you have him for a few years. Go shore up that defense and help him out.
All right, so let's go over to the National Football Conference, and we'll start with the NFC East. I guess maybe we could talk about the Cowboys and Washington. They're tied atop the division at 6-5. They've already split their two matchups this season. The Cowboys are, 3-1 in the division. Washington's 2-1 in the division. Cowboys are 5-3 in the conference. Washington 6-3 in the conference. So really, for listing purposes, the Cowboys are sitting atop the NFC East, and that's probably by like the 15th tiebreaker on the list, because this is like the way they sit right now. It's like the most legitimate tie that you'll ever see. So I don't mind, talking about both of them. And the Cowboys, let's talk about Washington, since they seem to be the second place team right now. Their problems are easy right now. The franchise quarterback is done for the season. Before he was done for the season, the injuries were starting to mount up on the offensive line as it was. I kind of saw the collapse coming before Alex Smith. So if it happens, I don't want to necessarily use that as an excuse, because, Colt McCoy, not saying that he's a better choice than Alex Smith, but hey, they've thrown the ball down the field more with Colt McCoy so far than they had damn near all season with Alex Smith. That's not a fact, people. That's just me, being a little tongue-in-cheek about it. I still agree that, Fred, you were right about them being an improved bunch. The defense, has been playing great. But I think it might be over for them. And as far as the Cowboys are concerned, you could take the Cowboys first, and then you tell me what you think about the Redskins, and then we'll swap.
Oh, man, quarterback is still a weakness for me, because Dak Prescott is just not a dynamic thrower of the football. He doesn't process fast enough. Yeah, the defense is young, they're aggressive, but if your quarterback doesn't really just change the game for your team, it makes things a lot more difficult for you. I mean, think about who you're facing week to week. Just think, once you get into a playoff situation, I mean, you're facing off against Jared Goff, a Drew Brees, a Mitch Trubisky, who's not a terrible quarterback, or a Kirk Cousins. Those are the guys you'll be seeing in the playoffs. All of those guys can engineer drives and have high-powered offenses. If Amari Cooper gets hurt, it's 8 man. It's back to 8 to 9 guys in the box, and Dak is having to make crazy throws, and I don't think he can do it. So, right. And it's been the weakness since Tony Romo left. I mean, Zeke makes Dak better, but at the same time, Dak has to make that team. Yeah, Amari Cooper makes both of them better, but it's just and that's complimentary football. But at the end of the day, Dak is the weakest quarterback amongst that group of playoff teams in the NFC, and he's what holds that team back. Because I guarantee you, if you said swap out, if you said let's make a trade tomorrow, Jared Goff goes to the Cowboys, Kirk Cousins goes to the Cowboys, heck, Alex Smith goes to the Cowboys, Aaron Rodgers goes to the Cowboys, Drew Brees goes to the Cowboys. This team would be very hard to stop, knowing that you have a beast at the running back position. Even though their offensive line isn't the one that we remember because of the injuries, they're really good. And then you're throwing to a really good receiver. You can control the clock and throw the football. That's a dangerous combination. But when you know that Dak isn't going to be able to make that special throw that every quarterback is going to make probably once or twice in a playoff scenario, that's a very hard team to bet on.
Yeah. And I agree with that because the defense has been playing pretty well. Vander Esch has stepped in for Sean Lee and looked every bit as, productive and useful as Sean Lee so far. Amari Cooper, like I said, he helps Dak, especially because of what he does after the catch, because Dak isn't necessarily hitting Amari Cooper in stride. But once he catches the ball kind of stationary, makes a couple of moves, ducks a couple of tacklers, he's off to the races. and he's hard to catch once he gets a full head of steam. But I do think the inconsistent play of Dak Prescott could be their biggest weakness at the moment. Did you want to comment on Washington, or did you want to move on to the North?
Washington, quarterback is a bit of an issue. That's the more obvious one. But even if Alex Smith had been there still, I think their lack of a dynamic weapon on the outside, like an Amari Cooper, is what's holding this Washington team back. If they had a guy like an Amari Cooper, that would make Alex Smith's life a lot more it'd make his life a little bit better, or Colt McCoy at this point. Only because we called him Captain Checkdown so much. But if you really pay attention to Alex Smith, when he had weapons that he could go down the field with, that's when he kind of opened it up a little bit more, because he could trust those guys and he knew he could push the ball down the field. But, if you don't, Josh Dotson just isn't who we thought he would be as far as a vertical threat. Jordan Reed is always injured, even though he's dang near at the top of the league in receiving yardage. And outside of Jamison Crowder, I'm just not impressed with their receiving core.
All right. Yeah. It is very, very underwhelming receiving core. So we'll see how that shakes out, because any one of three teams can end up winning this division in the end. So we might revisit this in a few weeks. The NFC North, the Chicago Bears sit atop that division at 8-3. Man, I don't want to say that the Bears don't have weaknesses. I've spoke before about the sometimes erratic play of Mitchell Trubisky. As of late, he's been a little better. He missed last week. He's probably going to miss this week as well. So
he is. He's actually out this week. Chase Daniel will be started. So
even though he has gotten better, like, we would still have to say the quarterback position as of now is a spot of weakness, because their starting quarterback is just frankly not going to be there. With Minnesota 2 games behind, like, these are the games that you don't want to drop. And I'm not saying Chicago will just drop the games because the quarterback's not here. Chase Daniel played a pretty good game last week on Thanksgiving. So I think the team is in good hands. But at the same time, like, you never know. Like, Chase Daniel has been in the league for a very long time, but there really isn't much film on Chase Daniel. In all his years, he hasn't actually played that much, even though he's highly regarded as a backup. So maybe now that they have at least a little bit of recent film on him from the game on Thanksgiving, we'll see how he can go out and play this week when people have a little better feel for what he's going to do. But, he's still in that territory where the backup quarterback can come in and make some magic happen. So we'll see how that goes. I think they're the running game is fine. They have two capable backs that basically can do it all out of the backfield. The receiving core, they're not world beaters, but I think they're very capable as well. So, and we already know what the defense is doing. I think the defense is leading this team. So, I don't see a lot of weaknesses. Not that I'm drinking the full Kool-Aid on these guys, but I don't see a lot of weaknesses in this team. What are your thoughts?
You kind of set it all for me. The erratic play of Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, which one are we getting? Are we getting really good, surprising Mitchell Trubisky who came out this year just guns a-blazing, or are we getting last year's Mitchell Trubisky where he was just so erratic and bringing just terrible when it comes to technique, well, whether it was ball placement, bad decision making? Which one are we getting? If I'm getting very good Mitchell Trubisky, I'm happy, but for every one of those games, I'm probably going to get 3 bad games from him, and the defense is going to have to bail us out. I don't know if I want to make my living off of that.
All right. Well, let's go to the South, where the New Orleans Saints, sitting at 10-1, reside. Matt, this is a little difficult because of the way that they're rolling. You would think they didn't have weaknesses. I'm pretty sure there's some weaknesses there, but when your offense is scoring this many points per game, those weaknesses kind of get masked. I mean, they're not really getting masked that much in Kansas City per se, but New Orleans is always leading a game, and what they do have is pretty good pass rushers. So when they're leading these games, like, these guys can go ahead and just tee off on quarterbacks once a team becomes one-dimensional. We haven't really seen, since the Tampa Bay game and the game against the Rams, like, we haven't really seen this team up against much adversity. And when they are up against adversity, their answer is to score. So I really don't know, how weak the defense can be when they're playing good teams. I mean, they did have a time against the Rams, and they had a time when Fitzmagic was producing his magic. But it's not a big enough sample size for me to say that the defense is a weakness, because statistically they don't show to be that, but that's because the offense is out there putting boots to faces every week. So what are your thoughts on the weaknesses of the Saints?
Very much like the Kansas City Chiefs, the back end of the defense is just one of those things that, can these guys cover? Sean Lattimore was the defensive rookie of the year last year, but I don't see that defensive rookie of the year anymore. And it just may be they'll have to turn. It's a whole different atmosphere, kind of like how in basketball we call them playoff atmosphere. Teams just ratchet it up a little bit more. Maybe we'll have to wait until then to see it, but I don't want to bet on that. I want to see that in the regular season. That way I feel a little bit better about it. And because if the offense isn't going, at some point the offense is going to sputter at least once. Can you withstand that for a half, a quarter, a game, where you're just getting where your defensive secondary is the bomb squad and everybody's scoring on you? I mean, the Rams already did it once. Can you really withstand that, or will this team look like the secondary we saw years and years ago when they won the Super Bowl?
All right. So, and last but not least, we're going to go to the NFC West, to those Los Angeles Rams. I'll let you speak on that.
The amount of big plays that this secondary gives up is just silly. And when I mean big plays, I mean 20-yard plays, 50-yard plays. The ball goes over their head at an alarming rate. Marcus Peters, for him to have been a 2-time Pro Bowler, I really question what's going on with him. I knew he was aggressive. I knew he bit on everything. But for 2 years, we thought Marcus Peters was the best corner in the league. But now it just seems like he's a liability. Although Aqib Talib says he'll be playing, how healthy is he really? He hasn't taken an NFL hit in a while. So, and he's a bit up there in age. He's on the wrong side of 30. So Let's see how he integrates himself back into the defense. But that's really, for me, the amount of big plays they give up.
Yeah, nothing but agreement there. And Marcus Peters, sometimes I wonder if he's even more aggressive because of the defense that he plays on, thinking that he could gamble more, and it really hasn't paid off for him as of yet. I wonder if that's his mind state. I keep thinking, though, this defense, it's crazy to think that anything defensive related would be their weakness, because that's the side of the ball that we talk the most about as far as their acquisitions and who they're joining and teaming up with. Like, I didn't expect defense to be a problem with this team.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have to pick a weakness on this team, it's definitely on that side of the ball. I think they'll get it together, though, by the playoffs. And those guys in the Saints are going to be on collision course for another matchup. I picked the Rams to get to and win the Super Bowl. I still have confidence in that pick. They're 10-1, but that roadblock called the New Orleans Saints are sitting there waiting. It's going to be interesting to see.
The Mercedes-Benz Superdome is in the way too. That place is hard to win it.
No doubt. All right, so that's what Fred and I perceive to be the weaknesses of every division leader currently in the NFL. We're going to end this episode with a quick pick six. You guys know the deal. We're going to pick 6 of the bigger matchups of the week, and we're going to start with the Thursday nighter, the Cowboys and Saints. I can go ahead and go here. It's not much for me to say, even though I think the Cowboys will put up a better fight than some teams have recently against the Saints. I still see a double-digit victory by the New Orleans Saints in this one, even though the Cowboys don't have the misfortune of going to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome like you just talked about. They still play inside, and that's still advantage Saints once you get them on that indoor track. So we'll see how it goes, but I see a double-digit win, not like a 48-10 type of thing or 48-17 or whatever, but I see double digits, somewhere around the 10-15 point range.
Lock this one up. Give me the Saints. I don't really have to say much about this one. You gave Drew Brees more than enough bulletin board material. You'll be lucky if he doesn't. They don't drop 35 on you.
Woo! All right, so we got the Vikings going against your Patriots. I would say a desperate Viking team. They're in catch Chicago mode right now. So they're going to Foxborough to see your 8-3 Patriots. This is Sunday at 4:25 Eastern. Thoughts on this one?
Well, the Patriots know they're climbing slowly but surely back into that number one spot with a little help from the Chiefs, and I know that's what they're banking on, getting home field throughout the playoffs. Well, they have to keep winning. They're only really a game out of this thing, and if they end up with this, if the Chiefs lose another one and the Patriots keep winning, they own the tiebreaker. So they'll be that's a little bit of an incentive to go after and beat a team that has one of the better defenses, has a really good running game. When Dalvin Cook's healthy, that team is dynamic. How does Harrison Smith and that defense really handle the Julian Edelman, the Gronks, guys like that? And will the Patriots be able to run the football as effectively as they have throughout the season, or will it be all on Brady and will he have to throw it 40-plus times? Give me the Patriots to win this one, but for the first time in a while, I'm a little unsure.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Patriots in a close game as well. I just think, this is the team, if there's any team out there who could, cliché-ly speaking, I made that word up, cliché-ly speaking, if there's any team out there that can flip that switch when they need to, it's the Patriots. The Vikings are coming in, I think, kind of desperate. A desperate team is always dangerous. But like you said, the Patriots still have something to play for. I don't think they can or will rest on their laurels saying, okay, we got this division. We got a 3-game lead. We can afford to drop something. Home field advantage will be very, very, very important. And the AFC and the NFC side of the bracket this season, maybe more than past seasons, because they're going to be more teams who are, kind of on equal footing when you speak of Rams, Saints, and then you speak of Patriots, Chiefs, and maybe even the Chargers. Those games are going to come down to pick'ems, and the people who have the home field advantage is going to have that literally have that advantage. So I'm going to go with the Patriots in this one as well, and we're going to move on to another big game, the Chargers versus the Steelers.
This one is going to be interesting because Bosa's coming back in this one. How effective will he be? The Chargers are another team still in that hunt for that number 1 seed, and even in their division could win a division too. The Steelers are moving, but they're going up against a better defense than they've seen probably all season. But I have to go with the home team in this one. Give me the Steelers. It's going to be a little bit closer than what many think, but I think Phillip Rivers is going to have a Phillip Rivers moment. For whatever reason, he just always has that moment. When the game is close, at the very end, you have a team that just doesn't – they find a way to fold. By the way, this game is an 8:20 p.m. start, so this one's not going to be – we don't have to worry about that whole West Coast team traveling east and all that craziness. We don't have to worry about that.
Right. I'm going to go out on a limb on this one. I think I was leaning Steelers at first. I'm going to take the Chargers in this one. The Steelers, we talked about it a little bit earlier. If Ben is a little careless with the ball and some of their home run plays work against them and turn into turnovers, I think the Chargers are a great team to capitalize off some of those mistakes and get points off of some of those mistakes. It'll be a good one, and I think it'll come down to, the very end of the game. But I got the Chargers pulling this one out on the road, Heinz Field, Pittsburgh, PA. We got the Washington professional football team going to visit my Philadelphia Eagles. This is a big game for both teams. Like we said, depending on the results of the Dallas Cowboys New Orleans Saints game, like this could be an opportunity for the Philadelphia Eagles, who struggled all year, Super Bowl hangover, to pull into a 3-way tie in the division. Like I said, if all goes well on Thursday night. At home, where they have a pretty good home field advantage. As of late, it's been a little shaky, but a banged-up Washington team coming in with their backup quarterback, and a desperate Eagles team, even though they're banged up in the secondary, and they got guys that were probably eating lunch with us last week playing in the secondary. I think their desperation is just going to weigh a little heavier than Washington's desperation. It may not stretch out for the entire season and get them this division, but I think for this week, I think they're going to make the NFC East a very interesting division to watch, because I have a feeling that they're going to win that, and all three teams are going to be sitting at 6-6. What are your thoughts?
This one's going to be fun because the Eagles, like you said, are still kind of – it seems like that Super Bowl hangover is just looming over them all year long. And
slow starts, Fred.
Like
and Washington defense can make them have another slow start. They might have to play from behind again.
Putting up a team that has a very good defense with a very good running game that travels is a bad recipe, because you have a Philadelphia Eagles team that is able to score points, but they just don't. It's something about this team I can't put my finger on that I don't like. and it's been going on all year. I think losing Jay Ajayi really hurt. I haven't really seen enough from Golden Tate to justify him coming over after the trade. And really and truly, the defense.
Seems like they can only get him the ball on wide receiver screens.
Exactly.
To get him involved, you have to force him. And that's not good.
you have to make people plays with him. You have to design a play for him versus him just organically just getting open. Also, the defense, the back end of that defense doesn't look all that great. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm available for an NFL, a bare minimum NFL contract. That's how bad their secondary is. And by the way, I'm not 6'2". I'm not Richard Sherman or nothing like that. But I think I could hold up a little better, maybe. Just saying.
All right, and we got the Panthers visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I hear are doing some interesting things with their tickets because they cannot get a sellout. I think the fans in Tampa have tapped out, and it's not as of late. Like they've been having trouble all season long. Not much for me to say here. You know, Tampa Bay is going to do some good things. Tampa Bay, as usual, are going to do some boneheaded things. I think the Carolina Panthers are going to go in there and handle business. I think quietly Cam Newton may be having the best season of his career. Of course, we know about the MVP season, but this is one of those seasons where you can have a great season and it'll go under the radar because there's so many other people having crazy seasons. I think Carolina will go in there, raise their record to 7-5, and go get this one.
Yeah, I think Carolina has this one in the bag. I just don't trust the Buccaneers defense. Too many injuries. They're the bomb squad in the back end. Cam doesn't have a ton of weapons, but Christian McCaffrey makes up for that and some, even if he does like taking big hits. Cam Newton's having a pretty good year, and also this Carolina Panthers team is on a nice little losing streak right now. They're on a 3-game losing streak, believe it or not, and that's to the Steelers, Lions, and Seahawks. And they're allowing a ton of points. They've allowed over 132 points. Oh, I'm sorry, 100. I'm sorry, 112 points.
Another one of those things, Fred, where you don't expect the struggles of this team to come from the defensive end, but they're kind of coming from the defensive end.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I expect the defense to be a lot better. I never expected the defense to be the problem. I always expect Cam Newton to be having to manufacture offense. And it just seems like on both sides, they're a tough meat and potato type of football team, old school really, but can Cam keep it up? That's really the question. Can Cam keep it up? Can he stay in trouble? All that good stuff.
Last but not least, we have the 6-5 Baltimore Ravens going to see the 4-7 Atlanta Falcons. Sorry again to the fans. This is another non-Chick-fil-A game. What you see in this one?
And Lamar Jackson gets his second start, and he's got a good defense to back him up. The Atlanta Falcons can move the ball between the 10s, and then it just seems like every team they just tighten it up, and there's not a lot of points scored. Matt Ryan has to rely on Julio Jones and then everybody else. That's going to be a tough one. If Lamar Jackson and company can run the football, play the good defense, I think they'll be in position to win one close. But we definitely got to see – I want to see more – every week I want to see more of Lamar Jackson. I just don't want to see him run the ball 30 times.
No doubt. I think Baltimore can go in and will go in and get this. Of course, you and I, we don't want to see him run the ball 30 times, but running the ball is going to be a big part of what they do, at least for a little while with him under the helm or at the helm. He's going to do what he has to do to move the chains, move the sticks, especially on third downs. But I think they'll make enough plays in the offense, whether he's running or not, to get it done because, as you mentioned earlier, the defense that they have supporting them is basically tops in the league. So I think Baltimore will go down there, clamp down in the red zone like everybody else does. The question at this point, though, it's been such a trend for Atlanta. Is it everybody else clamping down in the red zone, or is it their damn offense clamping down on themselves once they get to the red zone? So we'll see how that plays out. I think Baltimore can go down to Atlanta and get this win. All right. That is our pick 6, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is our show. Make sure you tune in to archive episodes of Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue anytime you feel like it. Just go to warroomsports.com or go to the War Room Sports YouTube page to check out the latest and greatest episodes of Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue. And if you're a college football fan, you can also check Fred out on Quick Slants at the same place, warroomsports.com or the War Room Sports YouTube page. He goes in depth with his analysis on college football week in and week out. If you're a college football head, make sure you go do that. But Fred, where are you going to be this Sunday when this NFL action kicks off? Let the people know where they can talk some smack.
You can catch me on Twitter, Fred Purdue CFB. I'm going to be really interested in this Saints Cowboys game tonight. Yes, that's going to be a crazy one. That's going to be outside of that Patriots game. That's going to be the one I keep my eye on a lot because Dallas talked a lot. DeMarcus Lawrence especially talked a lot of junk. I want that same energy when Drew Brees dropped 35 plus on you. I want that same energy because you caused this.
No doubt. And on Thursday, Sunday, and Monday, well, let's scratch Monday because I'll be a fan with rooting interest on Monday. I don't want to talk to y'all. But on Thursday and Sunday, you can catch me on Twitter, DevMacWR Sports. You can download the GroupMe app, Android or iOS, and join the War Room Sports Game Time group within the GroupMe app. We talk sports there all the time. That's NFL, that's NBA, that's college basketball, college football, that's anything. We're talking sports there. If there's a big game on, we're talking. If there's not a game on at all, we're still talking. Sports, hip-hop, whatever, the latest and greatest. Join me there. You can also catch me on the War Room Sports Facebook page as well. So everybody, this has been another episode of Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue. From my partner Fred, I'm Devin. Like we always tell you guys at this time, don't accept mediocrity. Be steadfast in the war against ignorance. And we'll see you chumps on time.
Going up to LaFell. Touchdown. The big screen. Sanchez over the middle. Touchdown. Play action. Cutler wide open. Johnson-Bacher.
War Room Sports, www.warroomsports.com. What? Ain't no more to it.